The Amazon basin is 7 million square kilometers in area. And within it, 5.5 million square kilometers remains almost entirely unstudied by archaeologists. We've done world archaeology, but we've just ignored the Amazon. What we find in the Amazon are thousands of henges that are now beginning to emerge from the cleared area of the jungle, and others that have been identified for the first time with LiDAR.
Discoveries of ancient civilizations in the Amazon jungle have unveiled a complex and sophisticated history that challenges previous assumptions about the region. These discoveries, made through a combination of aerial surveys, satellite imagery, and ground expeditions, reveal the existence of large, well-planned urban settlements, extensive road networks, and advanced agricultural techniques, suggesting a much higher level of social organization and environmental management than previously thought. The Kuhikugu complex in the Upper Xingu region of the Brazilian Amazon offers an incredible glimpse into the advanced urban planning and societal organization of pre-Columbian civilizations, long before European contact. Nestled in the remote Amazon basin in present-day Mato Grosso, Brazil, this area is a treasure trove of biodiversity. The dense rainforests and network of rivers likely played a key role in the development and sustenance of this complex society. Covering about 50 square kilometers, the Kuhikugu complex is home to over 20 settlements. These aren't just randomly placed, they're strategically positioned to make the most of the region's natural resources. What's fascinating is how these settlements are connected. Imagine a series of straight roads, some stretching for several kilometers, laid out with such precision that they often align with the cardinal directions. This not only facilitated travel, but also shows a high level of planning and coordination. Then there's the canal system, an impressive display of hydraulic engineering, likely used for everything from transportation to water management, and maybe even fish farming. The variety of structures within the complex is equally remarkable. From large public buildings and ceremonial spaces to individual homes, the architecture reflects a hierarchy in building techniques, hinting at different social or functional roles within the society. And speaking of society, estimates suggest that at its peak, Kuhikugu could have supported a whopping 30,000 to 50,000 people. This is deduced from the sheer number of residential structures and the expanse of agricultural land.
Along the Amazon, he reported seeing incredible cities, advanced arts and crafts, millions of people, a thriving culture.
The rediscovery of the Kuhikugu complex in the Amazon is a fascinating story that blends modern technology with traditional archaeology. Initially, this hidden gem was revealed through aerial surveys and satellite images. Imagine flying over the dense Amazon rainforest and suddenly spotting the outlines of an ancient civilization. Then, archaeologists like Michael Heckenberger and his team took over, conducting extensive ground excavations. They employed advanced techniques like LiDAR, which is like X-ray vision for archaeologists, to see through the forest canopy and map the area accurately. Now let's talk about how old this place is. Using carbon dating, a method to tell the age of artifacts and soil, scientists figured out that people lived in the Kuhikugu complex for several centuries, dating back to as early as 800 AD. They found all sorts of things like pottery, stone tools, and ornaments, giving us a glimpse into the daily life and creativity of the people who lived there. Here's the kicker. Before finding Kuhikugu, many thought the Amazon was mostly an untouched wilderness before Europeans arrived. But this discovery turned that idea on its head, showing that the area was home to a large and complex society. It's like finding a hidden chapter of history in your backyard. This place shows us that humans had a big impact on the Amazon, way earlier than we thought. They even made their own super fertile soil called terra preta, which is still rich and productive today. What's really cool about Kuhikugu is how it shows that the people there knew how to live sustainably. They had advanced farming practices, managed water well, and lived in harmony with their environment. It's like they were eco-friendly before it was trendy. This discovery also made us rethink the role of indigenous societies in the Amazon. It turns out they knew a lot about how to manage the land and shape the landscape. It's a reminder of how important it is to value and learn from indigenous knowledge. And lastly, the biodiversity in the Amazon today might partly be thanks to these ancient civilizations. The variety of plants near these archaeological sites is way more than in other areas of the forest.
The Amazon is basically a garden. The Amazon is a man-made rainforest. There are certain trees like Brazil nut trees or the ice cream bean tree, which are food crops, which are very, very valuable.
Marajoara Island at the Amazon River's mouth is like a time capsule that takes us back to the Marajoara culture, a sophisticated civilization from around 800 to 1400 CE. Imagine an island almost as big as Switzerland, right at the meeting point of a river and the ocean. This place, with its mix of forests, savannas, and wetlands, is not just big but also incredibly diverse. It's the perfect backdrop for the Marajoara people to thrive, providing everything from food to resources for their unique lifestyle. Now, the Marajoara culture is something special. They were known for their artistic flair, especially their ceramics. Picture pots and plates with intricate designs, complex patterns, and images of animals and people. They weren't just making these for fun. Their ceramics were a big part of their culture and beliefs, like the large, beautifully decorated urns they used for burials. These suggest they had quite complex ideas about life, death, and everything in between. But it's not just their art that's fascinating. They built these massive earthen mounds, some over 10 meters high. Think about that. That's like stacking 3 buses on top of each other. These mounds were probably used for everything from homes to ceremonial sites, and might have even protected them from the frequent floods. This shows they were pretty savvy engineers and architects, adapting to their challenging environment in style. The way they organized their society was also quite something. It seems there was a clear hierarchy, with some people leading the way in managing resources and religious practices. And they had different roles for men and women, which we can figure out from the things they left behind. Now let's talk about their farming skills. They were ahead of their time, creating raised fields to keep their crops safe from flooding. Their diet was a mix of what they grew, along with fish and game from the surrounding area. And they were smart about managing water with their canals and ditches, which was pretty crucial in a place that floods a lot. Santarem, right where the Tapajos meets the Amazon River, is a fascinating place, especially when you think about its history. This spot was like the grand central station of its time, bustling with trade and culture. Picture boats coming in and out, carrying all sorts of goods and ideas from different parts of South America. The area around Santarem was rich in resources, which helped the settlement thrive. Now, the people of Santarem were known for their incredible pottery. We're talking about really intricate designs here, geometric patterns, pictures of people and animals, and even mythical beings. The level of detail in these pots and plates is just mind-blowing. And it wasn't just about looking good. These designs tell us a lot about their culture and beliefs. The way they made this pottery was pretty advanced too. They had techniques for molding, firing, and painting that were way ahead of their time. The variety of colors and the way they used glazes show they really knew their stuff when it came to chemistry and kiln construction. It's like they were the master chefs of pottery, knowing exactly how to cook up the perfect piece. Santarem was more than just a local market. It was a cultural hub. The different styles and motifs in the pottery suggest they were mixing it up with all sorts of cultures. And it wasn't just goods they were trading. They were probably swapping stories, ideas, and practices too. The town itself, from what we can tell from the ruins, was pretty well organized. They had different areas for living, working, and probably for community gatherings or ceremonies. It's like they had their own little urban planning going on. But back to the pottery, it's not just about how it was made, but what it tells us about the people of Santarem. It gives us a peek into their daily lives, what they valued, and how they connected with others. The geoglyphs in the Amazon, especially in the Brazilian states of Acre and Rondônia, are like a secret world that's been hidden under the dense forest canopy for centuries. It wasn't until the late 20th and early 21st centuries, mostly because of deforestation, that these incredible earthworks started to come to light, thanks to technology like satellite imagery and LiDAR, which is basically like having X-ray vision from space. Over 450 of these geoglyphs have been mapped. This discovery has completely changed our view of how people lived in the Amazon before Columbus. Now, these aren't just a few lines in the dirt. We're talking about huge designs that can stretch over a kilometer and cover several square kilometers. They come in all sorts of shapes: circles, squares, rectangles, and more intricate forms. Some even have patterns like radial spokes, which add to their complexity. The sheer size of these geoglyphs hints at a society that was really well organized and could bring together a lot of people to create these massive works. But how did they make them? Well, they would remove the top layer of soil and vegetation, revealing the lighter-colored earth underneath. This contrast made the design stand out when viewed from above. It seems like they used a variety of tools made from materials like stone, bone, and wood. The level of precision in these geoglyphs shows they were not only skilled but also had serious planning chops. Some of these geoglyphs line up with astronomical events, like the solstices and equinoxes. This suggests they might have been used for tracking celestial events or for ceremonial or religious purposes. Imagine large groups of people gathering at these geoglyphs for festivals or rituals. It must have been quite a sight. But here's the really cool part. These geoglyphs tell us that the societies in the Amazon before Europeans arrived were much more complex than we thought. They could modify their environment on a large scale and had a social structure where leaders could organize big projects. And despite the size of these geoglyphs, they were made in a way that respected and integrated with the surrounding landscape. So discovering these geoglyphs has really turned our understanding of the Amazon's history on its head. It's no longer seen as just a vast, untouched wilderness, but as a place where complex, organized societies lived and actively shaped their world. It's a reminder of how much history there is still to uncover and how much we can learn from it. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, there was a growing fascination with ancient civilizations, particularly in the Victorian era. This interest was driven by a mix of cultural trends in exploration, colonization, and a certain romantic allure attached to discovering lost cultures. Major institutions like museums and universities, primarily in Europe and the US, started funding expeditions to unearth ancient artifacts and understand the history of indigenous civilizations in the Americas. It was a time when archaeology began to evolve from just hunting for treasures to a more scientific approach, focusing on careful excavation and detailed analysis.
One of the things I've realized is that there is no classic Native American feature, that Native Americans are have a very complex genetic story with very many different elements brought into it, and we shouldn't be necessarily surprised by the supposedly non-Native American look.
Interestingly, during this period, many artifacts, especially the colossal heads and stone structures found in the Olmec region, were often wrongly attributed to other well-known civilizations like the Maya or Aztec. This was largely because the unique aspects of Olmec art and iconography weren't immediately recognized, partly due to a lack of an overall framework to understand the region's history before Columbus. A couple of notable explorers, John Lloyd Stephens and Frederick Catherwood, played a significant role in stirring up interest in Mesoamerican cultures with their explorations and writings, particularly their books on travels in Central America and Yucatan. Their detailed accounts and illustrations captured the public's imagination, sparking a wave of interest in these ancient cultures. While they mainly focused on the Maya, their approach to systematically document their findings and blend travel narratives with scholarly observations greatly influenced future archaeologists studying Mesoamerica.
It's been known by archaeologists for quite a long time that there are anomalous skulls in parts of Brazil, which appear to show very strongly Polynesian or African features, very much like the features that we see on the Olmec heads.
Around this time, there was also a trend in comparative archaeology, where discoveries from different parts of the world were compared, helping to place Mesoamerican civilizations in a global context. Museums began to transition from just storing artifacts to becoming centers of research and education, playing a crucial role in spreading knowledge about ancient cultures. This era also marked the start of interdisciplinary approaches in archaeology, integrating fields like anthropology, linguistics, and early forms of environmental science. This broader, more inclusive approach helped in piecing together a more comprehensive understanding of ancient civilizations, including the intriguing and complex Olmec culture. Back in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, when Western archaeologists were exploring Mesoamerica, they started coming across these massive stone heads. Some of them were over 9 feet tall and weighed several tons, with distinctive features like flat noses and fleshy cheeks, often adorned with helmet-like headgear. But here's the thing. Despite their impressive size and unique features, their true cultural significance wasn't immediately understood.
They're most famous for is these huge carved human heads, which can be on a scale of up to 20 to 25 tons, which have curious features which have been interpreted variously as Polynesian, African, don't look like classic Native American features.
One of the earliest significant findings was made by José Melgari Serrano in 1862 at Tres Zapotes in Veracruz. He unearthed what we now know as one of the first Olmec colossal heads. Melgari Serrano even described the head as having Ethiopian features, which tells us a lot about the perceptions and biases of that era. But, and this is crucial, his discovery didn't really spark a broader understanding of the Olmec culture right away. For a long time, these heads were seen more as intriguing oddities rather than pieces of a larger cultural puzzle. It took several decades and a lot more digging before the significance of these heads truly began to be appreciated. Initially, many people thought these artifacts might belong to other known civilizations, like the Maya or Aztec, because the idea of the Olmecs being a distinct, early Mesoamerican civilization hadn't quite taken shape yet. It wasn't until the mid-20th century, with more systematic excavations led by archaeologists like Matthew Stirling, that the true picture began to emerge. They found more colossal heads and other artifacts, and this really helped to establish the Olmecs as a significant and influential civilization in their own right, predating and possibly even influencing others like the Maya and the Aztecs. Back in 1945, a really important expedition took place, led by this guy named Matthew Stirling. He and his team headed to San Lorenzo, right in the heart of what was once Olmec territory. This wasn't just any random adventure. It was a big deal because the Smithsonian Institution was backing it. They saw the potential in figuring out more about the Olmec sites, which could really shed some light on Mesoamerican prehistory. Before Stirling got there, there had been some poking around in the area, mostly because people kept finding these huge stone heads. These finds were intriguing but didn't quite give the full picture. So enter Stirling. He was already pretty well known in archaeology circles and had a real knack for Mesoamerican cultures. He was the perfect guy to take on such a complex task. Now, it wasn't an easy job. The San Lorenzo site was in this tropical area, covered in thick jungle. Just getting to the site and starting to dig was a huge challenge. They had to clear a bunch of jungle without messing up any artifacts that might be hiding there. And let me tell you, the weather didn't make things any easier. It was humid, unpredictable, and not the best for keeping ancient artifacts in one piece. The site itself was huge, spreading out over several kilometers. Stirling and his team had to figure out where to start digging because there was no way they could cover the whole area. They did an initial survey which took a lot of time and planning, and then decided on the most promising spots to start excavating. They had to be super careful with how they dug things up. The artifacts were old and fragile, especially with the humidity. Plus, they had to keep track of everything they found, where they found it, and all the details, which was crucial for understanding the site later on.
It wasn't something the Maya made up. The Olmecs used that same symbolism. So the Mayan calendar is actually an Olmec calendar.
What they found at San Lorenzo was amazing. It turned out to be one of the oldest big cities in Mesoamerica, dating way back to around 1200 to 900 BCE. That's even before civilizations like the Maya and Aztecs that most people are familiar with. The artifacts they unearthed, especially those massive stone heads, were a big deal. They were carved from single blocks of basalt and had all these unique facial features. It was clear that the people who made them were incredibly skilled. All this hard work at San Lorenzo really helped piece together the story of the Olmecs. It gave us a clearer timeline and showed just how complex and advanced their society was. Diving deeper into San Lorenzo, which is super important when it comes to understanding the Olmec civilization, it's considered the oldest major city in Mesoamerica, dating back to around 1200 to 900 BCE. That's way before other famous civilizations like the Maya and Aztecs. Radiocarbon dating was key here. It helped archaeologists nail down the timeline of the site, giving a much clearer picture of when the Olmecs were doing their thing. Now, the most famous stuff they found at San Lorenzo. Definitely the colossal heads. These huge sculptures were carved from single basalt blocks and are known for their unique facial features, like almond-shaped eyes and broad noses. A lot of them have these intricate headdresses too, which might have been a sign of high status or had some ceremonial purpose. But there's still a lot of debate about what all the symbols mean. The size of these heads is just mind-blowing. Some are up to 3 meters high and weigh around 50 tons. Imagine the skill it took to carve those. But it wasn't just the heads. They found jade figurines and a bunch of different pottery styles, which tell us a lot about their daily life, art, and even trade. The jade stuff suggests they had trade networks because jade wasn't just lying around everywhere. And the buildings. They found large structures like platforms and what might have been houses for the elite. This points to a society that was really well organized and had the resources to build big. The way San Lorenzo was laid out is also fascinating. It had a central axis, which indicates that the city was carefully planned. There were separate areas for ceremonies and living, showing a sophisticated urban structure and hinting at a social hierarchy. All this stuff from San Lorenzo has been super important for understanding the Olmecs. It's given us a much clearer timeline of their civilization and shown just how complex their society was. The variety in the artifacts, from the colossal heads to the pottery, shows that they were not only skilled in stone carving, but had artists and craftsmen who were really good at what they did. It's like San Lorenzo has given us a window into a past world, showing us how these ancient people lived, worked, and created. After the exciting discoveries at San Lorenzo in the 1940s, archaeologists turned their attention to La Venta, another key Olmec site in Tabasco, Mexico, in the 1950s. This shift was a big deal because La Venta offered a new window into the Olmec world. Known as one of the earliest complex societies in Mesoamerica, the explorations here were more focused and methodical, thanks to archaeologists like Philip Drucker and Robert Heiser. These guys weren't just digging around, they brought in techniques from other fields like anthropology and geology, giving a fuller picture of the Olmec civilization. La Venta is super important for understanding the peak of Olmec culture. The site was in its prime from around 900 to 400 BCE, a time when the Olmecs were really showing off their artistic and architectural skills. One of the standout features of La Venta is the Great Pyramid. It's not like the pyramids in Egypt, this one's made of earth and clay and has a unique conical shape. It was one of the biggest structures in ancient Mesoamerica at the time, which tells us the Olmecs were pretty good at organizing big construction projects. The pyramid was probably more than just a big building. It's believed to have been a key spot for ceremonies or religious activities, kind of like the heart of Olmec ritual life. The way they built it and other structures at La Venta, and how they aligned them with astronomical bodies, shows they were pretty savvy with engineering and astronomy. It was likely a bustling cultural hub where significant ceremonies and gatherings happened. When archaeologists started digging at La Venta, they did things a bit differently than before. They were super systematic about it, focusing on layers of soil and the context of each artifact they found. But they had their work cut out for them. The tropical climate and the fact that many Olmec structures were made of earth really made preserving and understanding these finds tough. They had to be meticulous in recording everything they dug up, which has been a goldmine for future analysis. Now, just like at San Lorenzo, La Venta is famous for its massive basalt heads. Carved from huge boulders, these heads are thought to be representations of Olmec rulers or other big shots in their society. But there's more. The site is full of altars with intricate carvings showing people, animals, and all sorts of symbolic scenes. It's like getting a glimpse into their mythology and rituals. And then there's the jade. La Venta turned up loads of jade artifacts, from beautifully carved figurines to celts. These weren't just pretty things to look at. They showed how skilled the Olmecs were and hinted at long trade networks, since jade wasn't just lying around nearby. But here's where it gets really interesting. The burial sites they found were complex, with all kinds of elaborate practices. They also found mosaic pavements made of serpentine and various offerings, which likely had deep religious meaning. All this stuff from La Venta has been super important in piecing together who the Olmecs were, their social structure, religious beliefs, and artistic talents. However, keeping La Venta in good shape for future studies is a challenge. The site's battling both natural elements and human factors, so preserving this amazing place is crucial, not just for archaeology buffs, but for understanding a key part of human history. Graham Hancock's theories about an ancient civilization in Antarctica are quite intriguing, although they veer significantly from mainstream scientific views. He speculates that a part of this lost advanced civilization was located in what's now the icy expanse of Antarctica. This is a striking thought considering Antarctica's current freezing conditions. He links this to the hypothesis of Earth crust displacement.
The entire outer crust of the Earth, like the skin of an orange, might shift, leaving the core of the Earth in place.
This theory suggests that Antarctica wasn't always at the South Pole, but might have been in a more temperate region. allowing a civilization to thrive. However, it's crucial to note that this idea of Earth crust displacement isn't supported by the current scientific understanding of plate tectonics, which doesn't allow for such rapid and dramatic shifts of the Earth's crust. Hancock also delves into mythology, drawing connections between various global myths, legends, and religious texts. He interprets these as allegorical references to this lost civilization, particularly focusing on stories of great floods or cataclysms. He proposes that such a cataclysm, maybe a flood or a comet impact, led to the downfall of this advanced civilization.
To me, the obvious answer is we are dealing with the fingerprints of a lost civilization that mapped the world and that left evidence of that mapping.
According to his theory, survivors of this catastrophe might have traveled the world, spreading their advanced knowledge, significantly influencing the development of later civilizations like the Egyptians and Sumerians. One of the more fascinating aspects of his theory is how he points out the similarities in architectural structures and astronomical alignments at various ancient sites. He sees these as potential evidence of a shared origin of knowledge, suggesting that this knowledge could have been passed down from the earlier civilization. Hancock believes that this civilization's legacy includes not just advanced architectural techniques and astronomical observations, but potentially other lost technologies and wisdom.
The date that Göbekli Tepe in Turkey is built, 11,600 years ago. That, weirdly, is the date that Plato's Timaeus and Critias gives for the submergence of Atlantis.
While his ideas certainly capture the imagination, it's important to remember that they are viewed with skepticism by the scientific community. Antarctica during the Eocene epoch was a completely different world from what we know today. It was actually positioned over the South Pole, just like it is now, but the climate back then was way warmer, allowing for a whole different kind of environment. This was a time when the continents were still shifting around after the breakup of the supercontinent Pangaea. So Antarctica, which was part of what we call Gondwana, was slowly moving to where it sits now, all isolated at the bottom of the world. This shifting around of continents, like Australia and South America moving away, played a big role in changing ocean currents and the climate. One of the most striking things about Antarctica back then was that it didn't have the massive ice sheet it has today. This absence of ice was mainly because of the much warmer global temperatures at the time. This had a big knock-on effect on the planet's climate, as the reflective ice that sends solar radiation back into space wasn't there, adding to the overall warmth. The tectonic movements during the Eocene were also pretty significant. The breakup of Gondwana was a major event reshaping the layout of the Earth's land and water. A key moment was the opening of the Drake Passage, the stretch of water between Antarctica and South America. This opening was a game-changer because it led to the creation of the Antarctic Circumpolar Current, which is a massive ocean current that goes around Antarctica. This current had a huge impact on the climate. It kind of put Antarctica in a climatic bubble, circulating cold water around it and stopping the warmer waters from the north from getting through. This is believed to have played a big part in cooling down Antarctica and leading to the ice-covered continent we know today. As for what life was like back then, the fossil records are really fascinating. They show that Antarctica supported a diverse range of plants and even animals. We're talking about temperate to subtropical forests with beeches, conifers, and ferns. Imagine that in place of today's icy desert. These fossils tell us the climate was much warmer and humid, and then there's the sea level, which was way higher than what we see now because there weren't those big ice caps locking up all that water.
So this is how do you know that sea level rose? There are certain corals that can only exist within a certain number of feet of the sea's surface.
This meant that the coastline and the shape of the land were quite different, and some places that are land now were underwater back then. The warmer temperatures and higher sea levels would have made the marine life around Antarctica rich and diverse, very different from what's there now. The Eocene epoch, which lasted from about 56 to 34 million years ago, was a really interesting time in Earth's history. It was part of this bigger period called the Paleogene period, and it's a part of what scientists call the Cenozoic era. This era is often nicknamed the Age of Mammals because it's when mammals started to diversify a lot, especially after the dinosaurs had their big exit at the end of the Cretaceous period. During the Eocene, the world's continents were on the move, drifting towards where they are now. This movement was a big deal because it changed how ocean currents flowed and affected the climate in a bunch of ways. Now, one of the most dramatic things about the Eocene was this event called the Paleocene-Eocene thermal maximum. This happened around 56 million years ago, and it was a time when the Earth got really warm, really fast. Temperatures shot up by 5 to 8 degrees Celsius in just a few thousand years. Scientists think this might have been because of a ton of methane being released from the ocean floor. This warming had a huge impact on life on Earth. In the oceans, some species went extinct, while on land, mammals started to evolve and diversify like crazy. The levels of CO2 in the atmosphere were also way higher than what we have today. Estimates say it was between 1,000 to 2,000 parts per million, which is a lot compared to the pre-industrial level of about 280 ppm. This high level of CO2 came from things like volcanic activity, burning of organic matter, and because natural carbon sinks weren't as effective. One of the big differences between the Eocene and now was that there were no major ice sheets at the poles. This is really different from today, where we've got big ice caps in both the Arctic and Antarctic. Because the Earth was so much warmer, the temperature difference between the equator and the poles wasn't as extreme as it is now. As a result, the polar regions were much warmer than they are today. And because there was less ice, sea levels were higher. This means a lot of water that's currently frozen in ice was in the ocean back then. This affected marine life a lot, changing where different species lived and leading to the development of new types of marine ecosystems.
One of the things I find most striking is the presence of Antarctica on ancient maps, because we didn't discover it until 1820.
Now, Graham has a really fascinating theory about an ancient advanced civilization that he believes existed long before the civilizations we commonly recognize, like the Sumerians of Mesopotamia. His idea pushes the timeline of advanced human societies back tens of thousands of years, possibly even to the last ice age. This is a huge leap from the established historical understanding, which generally sees complex societies and civilizations emerging more recently. Hancock points to the incredible architectural feats of ancient megalithic structures like those at Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, Stonehenge in England, and various sites in Egypt and Mesoamerica. He sees these as evidence of a highly advanced architectural knowledge. Moreover, he talks about the astronomical precision of these structures. For instance, how the Great Pyramids of Giza align with the stars of Orion's belt, or how Stonehenge aligns with the solstices and equinoxes. These aren't just random placements, they suggest a deep understanding of the stars and seasons. He also believes this civilization had impressive navigational skills, which might explain how similar architectural and astronomical concepts appeared across different continents. But it's not just about the buildings and their alignments with celestial events. Hancock thinks these ancient monuments reflect a comprehensive knowledge of astronomy that was integrated into the culture and religious practices of the time. He also suggests evidence of sophisticated urban planning in ancient ruins, indicating a level of societal organization and city-building knowledge that's not typically credited to prehistoric societies. Then there's the idea of a global spread of knowledge. Hancock theorizes that the similarities in architectural styles and astronomical knowledge across various ancient cultures around the world point to a common, advanced source of knowledge. This knowledge could have been spread by the survivors of this ancient society. Graham Hancock's theory really takes a global perspective when it comes to the influence of this ancient, advanced civilization he proposes. He thinks that this civilization had a major impact all over the world. It's not just a localized phenomenon, but something that reached across continents. According to him, we can see traces of this civilization in the myths, architectural designs, and astronomical knowledge of many different ancient cultures. He's suggesting that there's a kind of cultural diffusion that took place from this lost civilization to later societies. So when we see similar styles in buildings or common themes in religious beliefs and astronomical practices across various ancient cultures, he interprets this as evidence of their influence. He goes further to speculate that after some huge disaster that brought this civilization down, the survivors might have spread out to different areas of the world. These survivors, he believes, were the ones who passed on their advanced knowledge, and this played a crucial role in the development of the civilizations we know about from history, like the Egyptians and Sumerians. Now, when it comes to evidence, Hancock looks at archaeological sites and findings that he feels mainstream archaeology hasn't been able to fully explain. He talks about structures that, to him, seem like they needed pretty advanced engineering or astronomical know-how to build. He also dives into ancient texts and myths, interpreting them not just as stories or legends, but as allegorical records of real historical events. Think of tales about great floods or lost lands like Atlantis. Hancock sees these as collective memories of the lost civilization. He also notes that there are these cross-cultural similarities, like how myths from different parts of the world seem to share common themes, or how architectural styles and astronomical knowledge seem to echo each other even across cultures that supposedly never interacted. To Hancock, this points to a shared older source of knowledge.
In the intriguing world of ancient mysteries, Graham Hancock's global pyramid connection theory stands out with its bold and controversial propositions. He suggests an intriguing link between the pyramids and megalithic structures scattered across the globe. From the imposing pyramids of Egypt to the intricate stoneworks of the Mayans and Aztecs in Central and South America, and even extending to the lesser-known pyramids in China's Shaanxi province and the enigmatic Gunung Padang in Indonesia, Hancock sees a common thread. He theorizes that either a singular advanced civilization was behind these architectural marvels, or that there was a widespread sharing of knowledge that influenced their construction. The cultural significance of these structures is as varied as their geographical locations. Each civilization, with its unique beliefs and traditions, revered these structures for different reasons. Yet the ubiquity of pyramids as a form of monumental architecture is a fascinating aspect that Hancock highlights. The construction timelines of these structures are equally diverse, spanning from the early dynastic period of Egypt around 2700 BCE to the classical period of the Mesoamerican civilizations, which lasted until around 900 CE.
They cultivated powers of the human mind that we dismiss and regard as completely unimportant.
Hancock is particularly interested in the engineering techniques used in these structures. The precision in construction is nothing short of remarkable. The Great Pyramid, for instance, is a testament to this precision, with its perfectly aligned stones and joints, often put together without any mortar. This level of accuracy in the stonework, especially considering the era in which these structures were built, is a feat that continues to baffle many. Furthermore, the massive stone blocks used in these constructions, some weighing several tons, indicate a level of architectural knowledge and capability that seems far ahead of its time. What is truly intriguing is the architectural complexity of these structures. Constructed in an era without the technological advancements of the modern world, these pyramids and megaliths raise questions about the level of knowledge and capabilities of ancient builders. Were they simply extraordinarily skilled? Or was there an external influence, perhaps from a now-lost advanced civilization? Now, delving into the idea of an advanced ancient civilization, a concept that veers sharply from the path trodden by mainstream academics. His theory paints a picture of a civilization existing more than 10,000 years ago that was leaps and bounds ahead of its time in fields like astronomy, engineering, and mathematics. This civilization, as Hancock proposes, predates the earliest known societies like Sumer and ancient Egypt, which conventional history places at around 6,000 years ago. At the heart of the theory is the awe-inspiring astronomical precision of ancient structures. Take, for instance, the Great Pyramid of Giza. It's not just a monumental tomb, it's a testament to astronomical alignment, with its sides precisely mirroring the cardinal points. Then there's the Pyramid of Kukulkan at Chichen Itza, known as El Castillo, where during the equinoxes, an interplay of light and shadow conjures the image of a serpent descending its steps, a marvel of ancient engineering and understanding of celestial events. Perhaps one of the most fascinating aspects of the theory is the Orion correlation theory, which he developed alongside Robert Bauval. They propose that the layout of the three pyramids of Giza correlates with the three stars of Orion's belt. This isn't just a coincidental alignment. According to Hancock, it's a deliberate mirror of the heavens, indicative of an advanced astronomical understanding.
The signs of civilization that we see emerging are not the beginnings of civilization, they're a restarting.
But where did this knowledge come from? Some point to megalithic sites like Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, dating back to around 10,000 BC. These sites are not just ancient, they are complex and aligned with celestial bodies, suggesting an understanding of astronomy and mathematics far beyond what we would expect from that era. He doesn't stop there. He even brings ancient maps into the equation, like the Piri Reis map, which he believes displays a geographical understanding that seems too advanced for its time. Of course, every great civilization has its downfall, and his theory is no exception. He speculates about cataclysmic events, possibly a comet impact around 10,500 BC, leading to the civilization's demise. This catastrophe, he believes, scattered the survivors across the globe, who then imparted their advanced knowledge to the emerging civilizations they encountered. Now, what if we combine two different thoughts here? What if the ancient civilization many mention that came from the stars were the ancient Anunnaki? Zecharia Sitchin's theories about the Anunnaki and their connection to Earth have stirred up quite a conversation in both scientific and alternative history circles. According to Sitchin, the Anunnaki weren't just deities of ancient Mesopotamian lore, but extraterrestrials from a distant planet named Nibiru. This planet, he claims, orbits our sun every 3,600 years, coming close enough to Earth to have influenced our history in profound ways. It's a story that seems straight out of a science fiction novel, but Sitchin grounded his ideas in his translations of ancient Sumerian and Mesopotamian cuneiform texts, which he interpreted as historical records rather than mythological tales. Sitchin's narrative delves into the reasons behind the Anunnaki's visits to Earth. He proposed that these extraterrestrial beings were in search of resources, particularly gold, which they needed to repair their home planet's atmosphere. But their influence on Earth, according to Sitchin, went far beyond a mere interstellar gold rush. He believed that the Anunnaki utilized their advanced technology and knowledge to help build many of the ancient world's incredible structures, like the Egyptian pyramids and the ziggurats of Mesopotamia. Perhaps one of the most controversial aspects of his theory is the idea that the Anunnaki engaged in genetic engineering. Sitchin speculated that the first humans were a product of the Anunnaki, combining their DNA with that of early hominids on Earth. This, he argued, significantly accelerated human development and influenced the trajectory of our civilizations. The reach and implications of Sitchin's theories are vast. He suggested that the Anunnaki didn't just leave behind architectural wonders, but also imparted knowledge and skills that spurred the growth of ancient societies. It's a theory that paints the story of human civilization in a completely different light, suggesting that our advancements might have had a little extraterrestrial push.
And suddenly we see these signs of civilization appearing, and in places like Göbekli Tepe, those signs already include highly sophisticated knowledge.
The theory that interlinks the Anunnaki, a group of ancient deities from Mesopotamian mythology, with the construction of Earth's megalithic structures, is a narrative rich in speculation and wonder. Advocates of this theory believe the Anunnaki were not mere mythological figures, but advanced extraterrestrial beings. Their alleged arrival on Earth and involvement in monumental constructions have fascinated many who seek explanations beyond conventional history. Proponents suggest that the Anunnaki possessed far superior technological and engineering capabilities compared to the humans of their time. This advanced knowledge, they argue, was instrumental in the construction of various awe-inspiring ancient structures, such as the pyramids of Egypt, the mysterious Stonehenge, the colossal Moai statues of Easter Island, and the towering pyramids of Mesoamerica. The intricate designs, the massive stones used, and the precision of these constructions are often cited as beyond the capabilities of ancient civilizations without external assistance. One striking feature of these ancient structures is their astronomical alignment. For instance, Stonehenge's layout closely aligns with the movements of the sun during solstices and equinoxes. Similarly, many ancient structures across the globe share architectural features despite their geographical distances, hinting, as some believe, at a common source of knowledge or influence. The theory also delves into the timing of the Anunnaki's arrival on Earth. It is often suggested that their arrival coincided with or followed significant cataclysmic events, like great floods or environmental disasters. This timing is seen as strategic, either for the purpose of assisting in Earth's restoration or exploiting its resources in a period of human vulnerability. This aspect of the theory finds resonance in various ancient mythologies, which are replete with tales of gods or celestial beings descending to Earth in times of great need. Some theorists go as far as to interpret these mythological accounts not as allegorical or symbolic stories, but as historical records of actual events, including the arrival and actions of the Anunnaki. In particular, flood myths prevalent in various cultures, such as the biblical story of Noah and the Mesopotamian epic of Gilgamesh, are sometimes pointed to as supporting evidence for a global cataclysm that coincided with the Anunnaki's arrival. These narratives, they argue, are not just mythical tales, but potentially documentations of real events that were witnessed and recorded by ancient civilizations. While this theory garners interest and has a certain appeal to those fascinated by ancient mysteries and the possibility of extraterrestrial influence, it remains outside the realm of mainstream historical and archaeological discourse. The lack of empirical evidence and the speculative nature of the interpretations involved place this theory in the category of alternative history rather than established fact. Nonetheless, it continues to be a topic of intrigue and discussion among enthusiasts of ancient astronaut theories and alternative historical narratives.
History Today how important this place was. Exploring the dark side of Mount Everest is like unraveling a story that intertwines human ambition with the passage of time. It's fascinating how climbers over the years have stumbled upon relics from earlier expeditions, each discovery adding depth to the mountain's already rich tapestry. Imagine finding old oxygen tanks and climbing gear from the early 20th century, when mountaineering was in its nascent stages. These bulky, less efficient tanks and other equipment are now frozen in time, showing us how far we've come in terms of technology. It's like looking through a window into the past. Then there are those rare, almost magical moments when climbers find old cameras or film rolls. Just think about it. These could hold images of historic climbs or candid moments of those brave souls who ventured up Everest when it was still a giant mystery. These photographs are like missing pieces of history, offering us a glimpse into the challenges and triumphs of those early adventurers. But perhaps the most touching finds are the personal diaries and unsent letters of climbers. Reading their handwritten thoughts and emotions is incredibly moving. These diaries and letters offer an intimate look at what it was like to face the perils of Everest, the daily routines, the unpredictable weather, and the sheer mental and physical demands of the climb. They also reveal the emotional journey, the bonds formed with fellow climbers, and the poignant sacrifices made in the pursuit of such a formidable dream. And then there's the astonishing discovery of marine and plant fossils at such high altitudes. It's almost surreal to think that where climbers now tread was once under an ancient ocean, as indicated by the trilobites and ammonites found there. These fossils are not just intriguing, they're crucial in piecing together the puzzle of the Earth's tectonic history. The plant fossils, too, are little windows into the climate and ecology of a world millions of years past. The tales of climbers who vanished on Mount Everest are as captivating as they are tragic, weaving a tapestry of mystery and courage. It's incredible when you think about it. These climbers, driven by ambition and a sense of adventure, set out to conquer the highest peak on Earth only to become part of the mountain's enigmatic history. Take George Mallory and Andrew Irvine, for example. They embarked on their journey in 1924, aiming to do what no one had before, reach Everest's summit. But they vanished, just a few hundred meters from the top. The mystery deepened when Mallory's body was found in 1999. But Irvine and the camera they carried remained missing. This story, especially the unanswered question of whether they summited before their disappearance, has intrigued climbers and historians alike for decades. Then there's Maurice Wilson, whose story is like something out of a novel. In 1934, this British soldier set out to climb Everest solo, planning to crash land a plane near the base and then ascend on foot, despite having little climbing experience. His body was found a year later, but the exact circumstances of his death are still unknown. His journey, which was as much a spiritual quest as a climbing expedition, added an extra layer of mystery to Everest's lore. It's not just these historical disappearances that are intriguing. The mountain continues to claim lives even today. Despite modern technology and better weather forecasts, climbers like David Sharp and Rob Hall, whose stories were later told in films and books, have also met tragic fates on Everest. Often they vanish or perish in places that are visible but out of reach, adding to the long list of those who have succumbed to the mountain. What makes Everest so treacherous? It's a combination of factors: the unpredictable weather, avalanches, and the extreme altitude. Above 8,000 meters you enter the infamous death zone, where the human body starts deteriorating rapidly and survival becomes a desperate race against time. This zone has seen many climbers lose their lives, often leaving no trace behind. But there's also a spiritual aspect to these mysteries. In Sherpa and Tibetan cultures, Everest is considered sacred, believed to be protected by deities. Some attribute these disappearances to supernatural forces, respecting the mountain as a living entity with its own will. So the mystery of the missing climbers on Everest remains, a blend of human ambition, the unpredictable forces of nature, and the sheer scale of the challenge posed by the world's highest peak. On Mount Everest, there's a place called the Rainbow Valley, and it's as haunting as it is beautiful. Right near the summit, it's where the bright colors of down jackets and gear from fallen climbers stand out starkly against the snow. It's a bit eerie, really, because each piece of gear represents someone who didn't make it back. This valley is like a somber memorial, a vivid and colorful reminder of the human cost of trying to conquer this massive mountain. And because of the extreme cold and high altitude, these remnants are almost frozen in time, adding to the valley's poignant atmosphere. But there's more to Everest's mysteries than just this valley. Climbers often talk about hearing strange sounds or seeing mysterious lights on their way up or down. Imagine being up there and hearing whispers or moans carried by the wind, or seeing lights that seem to come from nowhere. Some think it's just the effects of being at such a high altitude, like hypoxia, which can mess with your mind and make you see or hear things. Others think it might be natural, like the sound of ice shifting or the wind howling, and the lights could be just reflections or something in the atmosphere. Then there's the local take on it. The Sherpa and Tibetan cultures see Everest as a sacred place, and these unexplained sounds and lights, they could be something spiritual or supernatural. It adds a whole different layer to what's already a pretty mysterious and awe-inspiring place. So when you think about Everest, it's not just about the physical challenge. It's like stepping into another realm, where the line between what's real and what's not can get a little blurry. The Rainbow Valley, with its stark reminder of those who've been lost, and the eerie sounds and lights that might be just natural phenomena, or maybe something more. They all add to Everest's mysterious and almost mystical aura. When you think about Mount Everest, it's not just the staggering heights and the breathtaking views that come to mind, but also something more chilling: the frozen remains of climbers who never made it back. It's a stark, somber side of Everest's story. These bodies, preserved by the extreme cold, are almost like they're suspended in time. It's eerie. You can sometimes see their facial expressions, and their bright climbing gear stands out against the snow, adding a surreal touch to the tragic scene. These remains have become a kind of grim landmark on Everest. For instance, there's the infamous green boots, a nickname given to one of the fallen climbers, now a marker for those who follow. It's a harsh reminder for climbers today of the risks and the fine line between making it and not. Some of these bodies have been there for decades, almost like a frozen history of mountaineering, showing how gear and equipment have changed over the years. But there's a deeper side to this. The presence of these bodies raises tough questions about respect and ethics. It's a delicate topic, intertwined with grief and loss for many climbers and the families of those who didn't return. Encountering these remains can be a profound, often unsettling experience for climbers, bringing them face to face with the very real dangers of Everest. Recovering these bodies is another complex issue. The extreme conditions and the challenging terrain make it a risky task, sometimes impossible. So often, the decision is made to leave them where they are, out of respect or practicality. These frozen remains on Everest are more than just a reminder of the mountain's dangers. They're like a narrative of human ambition, bravery, and a profound respect for nature's formidable challenges. They tell stories of those who dared to chase their dreams, sometimes paying the ultimate price, and stand as a poignant testament to the power and majesty of one of the world's most awe-inspiring places.